Welcome to The Topic on HCC TV. This is a show where we highlight Houston Community College, our students, our programs, our partners, and our reach into the community. We've got a great show lined up for you. Before we get to our guest on today's show, I want to remind you, if you're watching us on HCC TV, make sure you follow us in social media. You can watch this show there. You can also find us on YouTube, Houston Community College on YouTube. Subscribe to our channel, and you will get notifications for when new shows like this are released. You can also download the audio versions of our podcasts at hccs.edu/podcasts. October is Disability Employment Awareness Month, and today we're going to talk about how HCC, its community partners, create environments which people with differing abilities and varying challenges can all succeed. First up, we're going to welcome David Cross. He's the Director of EEO Compliance in the Office of Institutional Equity. Good afternoon, David.
Good afternoon, Todd. Thank you so much, and it's a pleasure to be here with this group.
We're glad to have you here. I want you to explain, because one of the duties of the Office of Institutional Equity is to ensure that HCC is in compliance with the Americans with Disabilities Act. Can you explain how this relates to our faculty, staff, and student employees at HCC?
Sure, and I'm also pleased to share that the Americans with Disabilities Act of 1990 is 30 years old this year, which means it's an institutionalized act. It's become the rule of law and certainly the philosophy of the land. And many of our students have had the benefits of this act for their full lives. So it's great to see that we're taking something that started off as opening a gateway and a door to many people who didn't have that access, and many folks have had it throughout their lives already. The Office of Institutional Equity is assigned by the Chancellor to address issues related to complaints and concerns related to discrimination and harassment around a variety of protected class laws, one of those being the Americans with Disabilities Act. And really, in reference to this topic, we help ensure that the services are available when requested. Sometimes what we do is we act as guides to our employees, to our students, to our members of the community to get to where they need to do to get the right service. With students, we're going to try to get them to the Ability Services Counselor. Each college has an Ability Services Counselor who can help them collect the information that they need to provide accommodations to help them have equal access to their instructional services. Employees have the same opportunity to do that through their Talent Relations Department. And again, if they contact us, we'll be happy to talk through the process, talk about what's necessary for that, and then help them get to that point. If there are concerns or if there are issues about not being able to get the kind of accommodations that they feel are appropriate, then we can also help with that. Sometimes we enter into interactive discussions, and we'll kind of go through and connect with folks to say what's reasonable in this situation and what's the best way to go to provide the best student success for our students and the most appropriate employment for our employees.
David, maybe you can tell us some of the things, some of the requests you get, because I know some of them, many of us may not realize, but there are certain requests that many people need in order to perform everyday duties.
And really those requests are based on what the qualifying disability is. That's why it's important to meet with the talent relations folks for employees or the ability services counselors, because then they work together with the student and with the instructor to find out what tools are needed in order to help them access the information they need. Sometimes it can be as simple as maybe taking a break or breaks when needed. Sometimes it may be different size screen readers. There are lots of tools that can be used to help folks access the information. Sometimes it's just simply understanding that folks need to be able to share notes or to be able to have an understanding of what's happening. So it really is an individualized process. And what makes it work is when all parties come together, meaning the ability services counselors, the instructor, and the student sit down and say, this is what works best and this is what's fair and equitable across the board.
What are some of the ways that HCC is listening to the needs of differently abled employees and students?
I think that HCC has really opened its arms and created opportunities to collect and hear information from a lot of different stakeholders. I was pleased that last year we were able to be involved in a universal design task force, which we had in the institution looking at issues related to physical access. Sometimes barriers may not seem like barriers to us, but when you come at it from another perspective, then it can prevent them from being able to access buildings, classrooms, sometimes instructional content. So the Universal Design Task Force was a group of students and employees and faculty who work together to kind of look at what barriers are out there and to help us address that and remove it. It's taken an interesting turn as we've gone into this environment, because now sometimes the barriers are different than the physical barriers that we were addressing before. So it takes some real strategic kind of looking at what we're doing and how we're doing it to make it accessible to the broadest amount of people.
David, is there a different request process for students versus employees?
Yes, there is. Well, as I said, with students, so you're going to connect with the Ability Services counselors in the Student Services Department. There's an application process that's required in order to receive academic accommodations in the classroom. And that's important because what we don't want is individual students or individual instructors making those decisions, because they need to have the expertise of the Ability Services counselor to look at, again, what's fair and what are the best tools out there. There's a wide range of tools that are available. With employees, it's the same kind of process. You want to connect with your talent relations folks, your senior partners, but it also needs to involve the supervisor, because the supervisor understands the job as well as the employee, and you're able to negotiate in and come up with accommodations that are appropriate for that job, for that employee.
You know, all of our lives have changed over the past, though, a little over 6 months ago. Many of us haven't returned to campus yet. Some students have, some faculty and some staff have returned to the campuses. Are there new concerns that you're seeing that have emerged because of the COVID crisis for our students or our faculty or staff?
Certainly, and it really hinges on this remote learning environment that we've been thrust into. In many ways, the future has come to us quicker than we were expecting, because when you look at education and the tools and the options available for Education My Way, it's been headed that direction. But then all of a sudden, that's where we all are. Students still have the right to have appropriate accommodations based on disabilities, based on their disability in the classroom. But that may change now if you're not face to face. And then how do you do things like coordinate note-taking services, coordinate access to the instruction virtually? So what we've done is our Ability Services counselors and our senior partners have been really focused on what that means, looking at accommodations and how it can work in the virtual environment. We've also taken steps as an institution to create a web accessibility portal for folks to be able to report concerns about web access. You know, if the only way that you can connect to your instruction is through the web and through the internet, then we have to be able to come up with tools and help give advice for students to be able to access that information. So every web page now has a web accessibility button at the very bottom of it that students and employees and members of the community can go to. They can enter their concern or problem. That'll be routed to our office and we'll help them get to the right place. So it's new tools for a new technology.
And we're all learning throughout this COVID crisis, new tools and new technology. For more information, David, where can people go to get a hold of your office? I know you've gone over extensively the two reporting procedures for staff, employees, and for students, but where can they get a hold of you?
There are a number of ways. Institutionalequity.com is a great way at hcc.com. The other piece would be the easiest is to go to the website. And again, if you'll scroll down to the bottom, there's several things that get to us, but the anti-discrimination statement, the web accessibility piece, there's also a button for sexual harassment, sexual misconduct issues. All of those will get you to our website and to our contact forms to be able to address it.
David Cross, we appreciate you joining us this afternoon on the topic. Thanks for bringing this information to light.
Thanks, Todd. Thanks for having me. Have a great day.
Absolutely. When we come back, we'll discover how HCC is helping students with differing abilities prepare for the workforce. Stay tuned.
Things could be stranger, but I don't know how. I'm going through changes now. Could spend a lifetime trying to figure it out. I'm now.
Welcome back to The Topic on HCC TV. If you're watching us on the television channel, hop on over to our social media, follow us in social media, and our YouTube channel. You can find us at Houston Community College on YouTube. Subscribe and you'll get notifications for shows like this one. Plus, you can download the audio versions of all of our shows at hccs.edu/podcasts. We've got a show today where we're talking about Disability Employment Awareness Month. And in this segment, we're joined by James Mable. He's the Director of Career and Job Placement Services. It's good to see you again, James.
Good to see you, Todd. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. You and I have talked previously in the past, but tell those who aren't familiar with the Career and Job Placement Services, you guys are available to all of our students free of charge.
That is exactly right. Career and Job Placement Services consist of about 25 staff members, and we are positioned throughout the HCC system. And we actually have locations at each main campus throughout our system. And due to COVID, we are virtual and we're accessible on our website and in our online portal, Career Hub.
We're going to have links in this show, and you'll also get it in the social media post for the show where they can find you guys on our website. Tell us about the Texas Workforce Commission initiative for companies that are wanting to hire differently abled students.
So the Texas Workforce Commission has a new initiative called Hire Ability. And Hire Ability is obviously an opportunity to spread awareness to employers about the importance of hiring students from all populations, including those who are differently abled. And so how employers can participate, first, they have to have at least 10% of their workforce that are identified as differently abled workers. And if they have 10%, they will get a designation and a badge that they can place on their website and throughout their company site, showing job seekers that, you know, they are friendly to differently abled job seekers or students.
You and I have talked before about the fact that many companies come to you and they're looking to hire HCC students. And this is giving our students an advantage as opposed to going on websites and posting your resume and going up for the job with students across the whole country with maybe more experience.
Exactly right. First, we want to make sure that we champion Texas Workforce Commission's message. So we have placed information about hireability on the employer side of our portal Career Hub, because we want every single employer to be reminded of this excellent opportunity to hire students with talent that are differently abled.
With COVID precautions in place right now, how is the job search thing going for many of our students? Should they continue right now? Do they need to be more patient than you would be in a non-pandemic situation? What's the job market looking like?
Right now, and this is typical in a cycle of the job market, that employers are probably ramping down their hiring in certain industries just because of, you know, we are driven by consumers. And
Right.
So we're slowing down in the job market due to the holidays coming up. But that doesn't mean employers aren't hiring. Employers are posting jobs in our portal Career Hub every single day, but obviously not at the level that they were in the summer. And so this slow or downtick of jobs will happen, you know, during the holidays. But by the middle to the end of January, the jobs will start populating a lot more as we get into a full-fledged hiring season starting in February.
James, what is the prospect of finding jobs where you can work virtually? Because I know a lot of our students are a little wary of getting out in public or maybe going to a job site for work. Are those jobs available? Are they plentiful? Or are they going to have to look at maybe going and working a job where you're going to work physically in a location?
I think like all of us, all employers in the job market that traditionally had most of their jobs that were on the ground, a lot of those jobs have become virtual. So I think students are going to find that a lot of jobs that were, typically you find that you go to a physical location are changing. Those jobs are actually becoming virtual. So I believe right now and for the foreseeable future, there are a lot of jobs that are actually virtual or even hybrid, where they work a certain number of hours during the week in the physical location and then the remaining hours in a virtual environment.
I know to adapt with the COVID crisis, you guys are used to having numerous job fairs across the district. Well, you're still doing them, but you're doing them in a different way virtually.
Yes, we want to adapt to how employers hire. So we have transitioned all of our on-the-ground job fairs to virtual events. And the great thing about that is those virtual career fairs are actually held in Career Hub. So all students have accounts and access to Career Hub, so they could sign up for a career fair at any time and participate in all of our career fairs. We actually have 7 of them planned this semester, with the next one taking place this Thursday.
You touched on it briefly before, but let's talk about Career Hub. You mentioned it a few times. For people who aren't familiar with Career Hub, tell us a bit about that. And is it unique to HCC?
So Career Hub is our career services software. Especially now that we're all virtual, students should know that Career Services has not stopped offering services and resources. We have kept going because we launched Career Hub last year in the spring and summer of 2019. And as I mentioned earlier, all students that are currently enrolled at HCC have a profile already created in Career Hub. And so they can access it by going to My Eagle and clicking the Career Hub icon. Regarding whether this is a unique platform, it is not a unique platform. When we, as an institution, purchased Career Hub, we actually tapped into a network. Many colleges and universities across the United States use Career Hub, and we branded it here as Career Hub, but the actual company's name is Simplicity. And so, for example, the University of Houston, they also use Simplicity to provide career services to their students. And so what happens is employers that may not have posted jobs or internships with HCC are now posting their jobs and internships with HCC, because now employers can post opportunities at multiple schools at once. You've had many companies in corporate America that were just focused on posting jobs with universities, but because of COVID and the nature of our job market and students wanting to finish with a skill set much faster, you're finding that companies are now posting at community colleges for some of the skill sets that they would typically look for at a university. So that's a boon for HCC.
And it's a boon for our students too, because you're getting employers who are looking to hire our students, and you can't really say that too much, because it's a big boost and a thing for our students.
Well, exactly. I can say that, yes, COVID has dented some of the jobs posted. We have typically around 300 jobs posted daily in our system. Before the pandemic, we had 700 jobs that were posted active every single day. So thousands of employers are using Career Hub to post internships and jobs, and those employers are wanting to hire students at HCC, and that's an excellent development.
James Mable from the Career Planning and Services Office, we appreciate you joining us, and we hope to see you again on the show real soon.
Thank you so much for having me, Todd.
Thank you, James. After the break, we're going to learn how Easter Seals connects young people with jobs. Stay tuned to the topic.
If you need to do something to feel okay to drive, you're not okay to drive. Don't drive buzzed.
There's no better place to knock out the basics than HCC. Whether you learn online, on campus, or both, HCC is the safe, flexible, affordable option. Register now at hccs.edu/college your way.
Welcome back to The Topic on HCC TV. I'm Todd Duplantis. By all means, if you're watching us on our cable channel, make sure you follow us in social media. Download our audio podcasts, hccs.edu/podcasts. You can also jump on over to our YouTube channel, where you can find us on YouTube under Houston Community College. Subscribe to the channel and get notifications for shows like this one. We're talking about Disability Employment Awareness Month. That is the month of October. And right now we're joined by Robert Williams. He is the Director of Transition and Employment Services for the Easter Seals of Greater Houston. And he's here to discuss teens and careers. Robert, I want to welcome you to the show. I know here at HCC TV, we've had a relationship with Easter Seals of Houston for a few years with one of our shows, Veterans Voices.
Which I have been on.
Yeah. I knew Tim Stroud's been a great friend of the show. We appreciate working with you guys over the years. I want to talk to you now about your services towards teens. Let's first talk about some of the challenges teens may be facing as opposed to adults. Maybe you can line those up for us.
One of the biggest challenges that any person with a disability, but particularly teens who have different abilities face, is the assumptions that people have about them. If you know one person with autism, you know one person with autism. You do not know the next one. But there are a lot of assumptions out there. I'm going to give you a really quick story. When I was in graduate school at the University of Texas, a friend of mine who was a doctoral student, I was a master's degree student, we went across the alley behind the Ed building to have dinner before an evening class. The waiter came and took my order, took one look at my companion, who was a quadriplegic, turned back to me and said, "What will she have?" So I turned to her and said, "What do you want?" And she told me, and I turned back to the waiter and gave him the order, and he got it. But his assumption was, because she was in a wheelchair and had very limited use of her hands and legs, that she also couldn't speak. And you don't know. You have to take one person at a time. So the biggest issue, the biggest single issue, is those assumptions that somebody else has about them. And we try very hard to break those assumptions down.
Well, I mean, reality is every person, every individual is unique, and we make assumptions. Then, in a way, we're stereotyping people in a way when folks are making assumptions.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Tell us about the transition program with Easter Seals. How do you work with the teens? Do you start working with them in high school? Do they come to you? Do you seek them out? Do you have programs with high schools? How does that work?
Well, some of them come to us from other Easter Seals programs where they have grown up and aged out of those other programs. A lot of students come to us from schools. This morning, I was in an admission review dismissal meeting for a 9th grade student at a high school here in Houston. And so I will be following her all the way through high school, so that when she finishes high school in 4 years, she has a plan and she knows the resources that are available to her, and we're able to help her get to those resources. Others come to us from Texas Workforce Commission. We have 3 different contracts with them, one of which is pre-employment, which is for transition age youth. And we receive referrals from them for various high schools. This past spring, we were in 3 different high schools providing classes. And so those kids, as they get older and graduate from school, they will continue to work with us, and we will work with them to get them where they need to be.
And do you work with the Texas Workforce Commission that works directly with companies in recruiting these students?
Yes, we do. This past winter and spring, Chevron hired 4 people to work in their IT department, 4 young men with autism. Texas Workforce Commission sponsored us to go in and be job coaches for them. And one of our staff was assigned to them and helped them to get through. And when the lockdowns happened, he was very instrumental in keeping them on an even keel and keeping them moving forward. And Chevron ended up hiring all 4 of them. We also have permanently. We also have 3 people right now working at Baker Hughes in IT, and those are sponsored by Texas Workforce Commission as well.
Has there been concerns amongst the teens that you're working with right now because of the COVID crisis and being able to continue with the programs they're in right now, but ultimately finding employment because we're living in very uncertain times?
We have had 3 young people this spring drop out. They said, we'll get back with you when this is over and it's safe to go out in the world. But others have stayed with us. We found out that we can provide about 80% of our services virtually. And so we did that. We had a very successful summer program with some students, and that was all done virtually. And so we have been able to continue to help young people find jobs. We've had 2 people last week find jobs. So, that's ongoing. It's continuing. One of those jobs is in person. The other job is a person working at home, fulfilling orders on their computer. So they will not go back into the office even after the pandemic is over. But the job market is different, but it is navigable, and we have been able to help people find jobs.
Are most of the teens looking to find those virtual jobs like the one you just mentioned? Because it sounds to me like a lot of those jobs are right now the most desirable to have when you can stay safe and work virtually.
Yes, and a lot of them do want virtual jobs. That's what they come to us and tell us. One thing, the younger generation, I'm aging myself here, but the younger generation, they grew up with computers in their house. I have a 23-year-old son with autism, and he has never lived in a house without a computer. And he is currently going to school to get a networking degree. And so, they have an advantage in that they've grown up with computers, and they're much better at them, at working with them, than a lot of us who are older are. So we have been able to do that, and we hope to do more in the future.
Do employers come seeking your services? Do you go to them, or is it a mixture of both? How does that work?
It's a mixture of both. The jobs at Baker Hughes and at Chevron, they came to us through one of our partners out in the community, but they came to us. And just about a month ago, Methodist Hospital called us, and we are helping them find employees with disabilities. And we've done some training for their hiring managers. So, but every single week, our staff are out there on the phone or in person contacting employers, trying to make the connections to help these guys get jobs.
And how do young people get involved with your services?
Through the schools. The high schools here in Houston and all the school districts have transition counselors, and we have relationships with many of those. And so they come to us and ask us to talk to the families and begin services. We also, through Texas Workforce Commission, we've been a contractor of theirs for many years. And so, they know us, and so we get referrals from them. We also, on social media, on Facebook and on Twitter, we are out there advertising our services. And so we have people who simply call us and say, I need help. And we will connect with them and try to get the services they need.
Robert Williams, Director of Transition and Employment Services with Easter Seals of Greater Houston. We appreciate you joining us on the show. Real quickly, what's your website and where can people find you?
It is www.eastersealshouston.org. If you want to contact me directly, my email is rwilliams@eastersealshouston.org. If you go to our website, there's 2 different ways to connect with any of our programs. There's a contact us, and there's an Our Services link. So you can connect with any of those and find the services you need.
Thanks a lot, Robert. We appreciate you joining us today.
You're welcome.
And thank you for joining us on the topic. We're about out of time for this week. Once again, a reminder to download our audio podcasts at hccs.edu/podcasts. I'll see you next week for the topic on HCC TV. I'm Todd Duplantis.